Today we're diving into a story about how a small rural school district in Arizona ended up in a huge showdown with the state. We're talking financial mismanagement, a total breakdown of public trust. This is the story of Topock Elementary.
Okay, so this quote right here from the Arizona Auditor General, it really sets the stage. They basically said, the district has developed a history of non-compliance. Ooh, that's not just a slap on the wrist. It's a sign of deep, long-running problems that we're about to blow up.
So, here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with that history of non-compliance. Then we'll take a peek inside some pretty chaotic board meetings. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the Auditor General's reports, see what happened when the state withheld their funds, and finally, look at where things stand now.
All right, Section 1, a history of non-compliance. So how did this small district even get on the state's radar? Well, it all came to a head in April of 2024. That's when the Arizona State Board of Education did something pretty drastic. They decided to withhold funds from Topock Elementary. And let me tell you, for any school district, that is a huge, huge deal. It's basically the financial equivalent of a 5-alarm fire.
So why did they do it? The official reason was non-compliance. And that sounds kind of boring, right? But what it really means is they weren't following the rules. Specifically, something called the USFR, the Uniform System of Financial Records. Think of it as the official playbook for how every single school district in Arizona has to handle its money. It's all about transparency and accountability. But here's the kicker. According to the state, Topock wasn't just breaking the rules. They weren't even making a serious effort to fix the mess.
Now, the official reports and audits, they only tell you part of the story. If you really want to understand the level of dysfunction we're talking about, you've got to go inside the boardroom. And believe me, the district's own meeting minutes, they paint one heck of a picture.
Take this quote from the superintendent at the time. He actually said, "Let me remind you that this is a meeting in public, not a meeting for the public." Wow. I mean, can you imagine? This was said during an argument about whether the public should get copies of the meeting agenda. It just goes to show you how tense things were. The basic idea of transparency was being debated out in the open. And then there's this moment. A board member, clearly frustrated, says, "So you want us to approve this, and we have no idea what we're going to spend?" They were talking about hiring a new director. I mean, that's just a fundamental breakdown. The people in charge of the money were being asked to approve spending without knowing how much they were spending. It's just wild.
But this next one, this one might just take the cake. You have a board member openly admitting, the truth is, I know so little about school finance, I look at this and it looks fine to me. That is, honestly, pretty stunning. If the very people elected to oversee the finances don't understand the documents in front of them, how can they possibly do their job? It's a recipe for exactly the kind of disaster we're talking about.
Okay, so this chaos didn't just pop up out of nowhere. No, this was part of a pattern, a really troubling pattern that goes back years.
Let's go back to 2018. The district was rocked by a huge embezzlement scandal. We're talking over $236,000 stolen. It was so bad they actually had to take out a loan just to cover their losses. So you can see why the state auditors would be keeping a very close eye on them. Fast forward to 2023, the superintendent is literally testifying before a state committee, promising to fix everything. But that history, it explains why the state's patience was already worn thin.
And that brings us to the Auditor General's reports. This is where the promises met reality. After that testimony, after all the pledges to do better, the auditors came back for a follow-up. And what did they find? Well, despite all the talk, key problems were still not fixed.
And we're not talking about small stuff here, like a few typos in a report. These were major fundamental failures. For instance, get this. The auditors found the district was still paying the superintendent, even after the board had publicly voted to vacate his contract. And another time, they tried to approve performance pay, but they cited the wrong year and didn't even put a dollar amount in the motion. I mean, these are just baffling mistakes that point to a system that's completely broken.
So with all these failures laid out in black and white by the state auditors, it was only a matter of time. The State Board of Education finally decided enough was enough, and they brought down the hammer.
And that hammer came in the form of withholding funds. The state board voted to hold back 3% of the district's state aid. Now, 3% might not sound like a lot, but for a small school district, that is a serious financial blow. It's a move designed for one thing, to get their attention and to get it fast.
So what does withholding aid actually mean in practice? Well, the superintendent at the time explained it pretty well. He said, the funding isn't revoked, it's just held.
Basically, the state wasn't taking the money for good. Think of it more like they were holding it hostage. The message was crystal clear. You'll get your money back when you prove to us you've fixed these problems and are back in compliance. So you have a damning audit, and now you have the state holding back your money. That kind of pressure, well, it forces things to change. This crisis really became a turning point, the start of a new and, hopefully, better chapter for the district.
And that change started right at the top. The superintendent, John Warren, resigned. In his place came Callie Lee, someone who knew the district inside and out as a former principal and teacher. She's now tasked with the massive job of righting the ship. But it's not going to be easy. She's got to fix all these compliance issues to get the state off their back, and she's doing it while the entire community is watching her every move, with a petition even circulating from a former student about the past mismanagement.
Which, of course, leaves us with the big unanswered question. With the fresh start, can a small district like this really rebuild? It's about so much more than just balancing the books. The story of Topock Elementary is a powerful reminder that financial solvency isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about procedure, it's about transparency, and maybe most importantly, it's about accountability. Fixing the finances is one challenge, but rebuilding the community's trust, well, that's a whole other mountain to climb.